Hello everyone, after trying very hard, I've made some friends. Won't you join me too and subscribe?
Before we get started, like, share, subscribe, and hype me up. A man and a woman, both needing a haircut, go in for a French crop. The man walks into the barber and pays $25 to $50. The woman goes into the salon and pays $125 or more. The cost of men's shampoo versus women's, a man's shaver versus a woman's shaver. Isn't it crazy? But here, in the world of 1/6 action figures, aka dolls, a type of equilibrium is meted out as roles are reversed. So begins my review of this 1/6 scale Michael Jackson action figure. Action figure collectors, strap on, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. If you're a guy and you want a 1/6 scale posable action figure, you head over to your local comic book shop, and behind a glass case is the collectible figurine. Whether Hot Toys, McFarlane, or some other custom action figure seller, the dolls are overpriced. We're talking $150 if you're lucky and strike while it's newly released, but typically $200+. The Michael Jackson was on the low end, meaning he was over $200, but there were some others starting at $650 to $800. My Michael Jackson figure was a custom doll by a Hong Kong company named Blackbox. The box had a cardboard slip-on over a very sturdy top loader two-piece. The interior had a thick foam encasing the entire doll, making him look like Luke Skywalker coming out of a Class 3 carbon freezing chamber. His head, for some reason, was still loose from his neck, which sent me in a panic, in which I contacted the online comic book store I purchased him from, and then contacted him again once I discovered I could just put the head pop it back on. It wasn't broken. The second layer of foam housed his metallic armor and extra pieces of clothes. I was not fond of that at all. No. The armor plates each had an array of elastic bands with buckles segmented like the feet of a caterpillar, of which they resigned you to buckle them. It was easier to buckle and tie them while not on the body, and then slide them on after. I was happy that this Michael came with a glove and not a mitten. The mitten being a major point of disdain that I had with the 1980s doll and Barbie from the time I first started collecting. I mean, I don't even like human mittens. I'd rather have a fingerless glove or just paint the whole plastic hand. I mean, especially if you give me spare skin tone hands. However, this is where the first intriguing thing occurs. His hand is the same material as Gumby or the snap cleat knees of the old school Barbie that allows you to, pose each finger. It also allows you to slide his hands into the gloves. Bravo! I mean, it's too bad his hands fall off so easily, though. And also, is it me, or did they seem a little too big? Well, this signals to me that this is a world box body. And since I have some of those, I could change out his hands, but the hands on those bodies are a bit bigger, I believe. Before I go off on that tangent, I wanted to talk about how sturdy he is. He's a good hefty weight, like a Silkstone doll. I thoroughly enjoy weighted dolls. It makes the price seem more reasonable, worth it somehow. Or is that the doll manufacturer messing with my mind and making it purposely weighty? Michael Jackson weighs 12 ounces versus this made to move He-Man at 9.4 ounces. Let's go ahead and compare bodies. Right off the bat, I wonder, how is this 1/6 scale? He's like a 10-inch doll. He's an 11-inch doll. which is shorter than most male 1/6 scale dolls, which range from 12 to 14 inches, i.e. LeBron James and Integrity. And Michael Jackson was not short like Prince. He was 5'9". So this increases the likelihood of me potentially swapping his body. All that money and a body swap looms in the distance. Now, most people will say that these dolls aren't for play, they're for display. And if that's the case, then these action figures don't need 23 points of articulation. For majority of poses, you need full rotation at the hip and shoulders, head tilt and turn, ankle, knee, elbow, and wrist articulation for 12 points. If you want to get fancy, a double joint at the knee and elbow. What I'm saying is that these bodies with these major gaps around the shoulders and especially at the ankle are unwieldy, unpurposely ugly, and seem a little fragile at those joints for action figure dolls. In fact, if I hadn't removed his clothes, I would have never known the doll was broken at the crotch. The feet really rely on painted shoe molds like Bratz dolls, where the shoes and feet are one piece. You can buy them feet separately, or when you buy an entire body, it usually does come with feet. While, like Bratz, this makes it easy to change out their shoes. If you lose one shoe, you now have a footless doll. But hey, why would that happen? These are expensive for display, not for play, right? And they're not fashion dolls. You aren't planning to ever take off their clothes. That means, yes, the clothes are generally sewn and or painted on their body. Some pieces are removable, but most are not. And guys, you think this is acceptable, but in the fashion doll world, dolls with painted on clothes are usually cheaper, not more expensive. Wouldn't it be nice if you could change Peter Parker to Venom by simply swapping out his clothes? I mean, sometimes they do give you a second head. Swapping out clothes shouldn't be regulated to fashion dolls, as both men and women do change clothes every day. What I'm saying to you in so many words is that the newer fashion dolls have better bodies with just as good, if not better, articulation, and even the high-end fashion dolls are cheaper than your action figures. I think the fabric quality for the action figures and the sewing is spectacular. And it should be at the price points that we're purchasing them at. But most of the money is in the face. The sculpts are usually the money maker with their detailed paint and precision cuts. Sometimes down to the pores, which I find kind of ugly. Why focus on skin imperfections? Thankfully, they did not do that for Michael Jackson, but they have a tendency to do that with sports figures. In reality, I felt Michael Jackson looked his best right up to the Thriller album. However, this is a very handsome rendition of his latter face. Need I say, better looking than I personally envisioned him after all those surgeries. Also, I felt he looked great and fits in nicely with my collection. But most posable action figures have him with molded hair and not real hair. And that's another issue with many of those expensive posable action figures. They're mostly plastic. They don't even have real hair. I was so excited about getting this action figure because he has a great face mold, articulation, and hair. But, yes, another big old but. Have you watched my wig series? You should check it out, okay? Many doll girlies are so opposed to the wigs. In fashion doll world, even a Dollar Tree doll is expected to have rooted hair. But y'all are willing to pay for these action figures with a glued on wig. Michael Jackson's hair is so clogged with glue, it almost might as well be a plastic mold. And I can't really do anything about it because I could damage the wig. This actually is worse because dust collects in doll hair. And now washing the hair is something I actually have to actively avoid. And I'm not an inbox collector. Why get a posable doll that you can't touch and you have to keep under a container? And no, he's not returnable, if you're wondering. I probably wouldn't return him anyway because his sculpt is everything. For the most part, the sculpt is what makes the doll and keeps Mattel at the top. Side tangent. So when I started back collecting dolls and action figures, I fell in love with that Mattel Made to Move body. I wanted all my dolls to be articulated and began looking everywhere for 1/6 scale articulated bodies. And that's how I know about World Box bodies. I have several in my backlog, and so I'm going to go ahead and move Michael over to another one with an uncracked crotch and the proper height, so he fits in with my doll collection properly. It's best he stay on this body type so he can keep his articulated hand and his shoes. The neck was the only part I had to fiddle with. But I got it to work as best as it could. All the other parts were simple switches, and voila! Now he's the right height and a much better match for my collection. So Barbie collectors, maybe we've been spoiled because we want everything for nothing. Or maybe the action figure collectors have been expecting too little while paying too much. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And thanks for playing dolls with me.
If you like that video, you should consider watching one of these. Watch this one. Do it. Do it now. You're not doing anything about it. You know you're not. Oh, and like it and subscribe.